Have you ever wondered why your city is so ugly? It's no coincidence that American suburbia is often used in our visual culture to depict horror. Take for example the film Vivarium, where a couple gets stuck in an endless maze of empty suburban homes, or the whole genre of the backrooms, which frequently depict suburban neighborhoods. The fact that the places that half of all Americans live in are also settings in horror movies is not a good thing. There's a reason why American suburbia is pretty much the only thing you see in these liminal space images. This sterile environment with perfectly manicured lawns and smoothly paved asphalt just feels off. There's all these signs of human habitation, yet there's hardly anyone around. The suburbs are inherently liminal, and the neighborhoods we live in have become the transition between places rather than a place themselves. In his book, The Great Good Place, sociologist Ray Oldenburg describes the concept of the third place, a social environment away from home, which is the first place, and work, which is the second place. Third places can be your local cafe, town square, or community center, places you pop by regularly to meet the locals. Third places are crucial for civil society. They're a place you can go to spontaneously hang out, meet new people, or just be like me and don't talk to anyone. Oldenburg describes that these qualities are what gives an environment a sense of place. Strip them away and you're left with a non-place. Places you may travel through but ultimately forget about. But third places are pretty much non-existent in most of the suburbs due to zoning laws that restrict anything other than single-family homes to be built. Living the American dream means you'll rarely step outside your own bubble. When you want to go somewhere, you step outside your single-family home, get into your own private vehicle, and drive to your destination, all while never interacting with anyone. And when your destination is far enough that you have to drive, it's not really a third place anymore, as third places should serve your local community. Now, as an introvert, I totally get not wanting to make small talk with your neighbor Kimberly all the time, but even if you don't interact with anyone, having a third place close by makes your life more healthy and convenient and builds community trust. Now, this is the part of the video where I get into a bunch of data and numbers, and just so you guys don't click off, a 2021 American Community Life Survey showed that 69% of Americans living close to amenities said they feel safe in their neighborhoods, compared to just 44% living far from amenities. Similarly, 43% living close to amenities said their neighborhoods are excellent places to live, compared to just 22% living far from amenities. We see the same trend with how connected we feel with our neighborhoods, how helpful we think our neighbors are, how much we trust our neighbors, and whether we have someone to turn to when facing a problem. But the same survey showed that third places are slowly fading away. Only 56% of Americans said they have a local spot that they visit regularly, 9% lower than in 2019. This, of course, has been accelerated by the pandemic, which caused people to interact less and stores to close earlier. Alright, that's enough of this. So given how isolating and unattractive our cities are, is it really surprising that kids would rather stay inside all day and play video games?
Hey, Kenan.
Is it surprising that kids resort to talking with strangers online?
I'm Chris Hansen. No, you're not.
Part of the reason you rarely see any European liminal spaces is that their cities have more dense and mixed-use neighborhoods, which naturally create third places that are accessible by anyone. Of course, Europe does have suburbs and single-family homes, but unlike American and Canadian suburbs, shops and restaurants are close by, streets and parking lots are smaller, and they are better connected with efficient public transportation. And this leads to my second point. Suburbs in the US and Canada were created in the 50s with the idea that everyone could just drive everywhere.
This is the American dream of freedom on wheels.
And so as a result, everything is spread super far apart, making it hard to walk or bike anywhere, and the low density means public transportation isn't sustainable. When you have no other option than to drive, everyone will drive. And when everyone just drives, why even bother making the outside environment look nice? The fundamental reason why so many cities in the US and Canada are so ugly, boring, and creepy comes down to who we build our cities for. American traffic engineers focus on the speed and convenience of vehicles, over the safety and lives of people. In his book, Confessions of a Recovering Engineer, Charles Marone explains how the design standards that determine the way we build our roads and streets are solely geared to improve the safety of drivers, but neglect anyone outside a car. And yes, by design standards, I literally mean there's some document out there that literally outlines how a street should be built. This is why so many American streets are built to a highway standard, meaning they're super wide with clear zones and no obstacles in the way, because that's what the design standards are for building a safe street. It literally comes down to the design process that our engineers use to design streets, as well as what our education system teaches future engineers. Because when they refer to their old 20th century book of standards on how to build a safe street, they make this. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking, I'm not an engineer, and you're right, I'm not even close. I almost failed high school math. So who am I to judge their profession? But this is a design issue, and it affects all of us. The physical design of our cities affects, at best, our mental health and quality of life, and at worst, the lives of many people. We often blame each other for these problems, that some people are bad drivers or constantly break the law, but rarely do we consider how design plays into them. Sure, it may ultimately be up to a person to make decisions, but just like how product design subconsciously influences our experience using a product, urban design influences how we interact with our urban environments. So the solution is to first end our ancient zoning laws that make it so only single-family homes can be built in most of our cities. Minneapolis was the first major American city to do this, which was followed by the states of Oregon, California, and Maine. We also need to mix commercial buildings into residential neighborhoods, either by building mixed-use developments where there are shops on the ground floor with housing above it, or by simply building standalone commercial stores beside houses, which is what we used to build back in the 1920s in these streetcar suburbs, which are also some of the most desirable places to live in North America. The second part of the solution is to update our design standards to be more inclusive. Every road and street needs to be repaved every 15 years. That's just routine maintenance. But that's why it's so important to make these changes now so that future streets can be rebuilt to meet these standards. Countries like the Netherlands made this change decades ago, which is why today they have some of the most safest and high quality infrastructure in the world. And so ultimately, the reason our cities are so ugly and unattractive comes down to a design issue. And this issue goes beyond just creepy photos on the internet. It's about making our cities more sustainable, attractive, livable, and of course, less creepy.